Hi, welcome to the Online Jewelry Academy. I'm Professor John Ahr and I'm your instructor. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to make a really cool project. And if you're a beginner, this one's perfect for you, especially if you're not comfortable handling the torch or if you're really not good at soldering, because this project doesn't require any solder. What we're going to be making is a cute cold connection cuff. And I've got a couple of examples right here. Now, they're basically the exact same type of bracelet, but I used a couple of different approaches to making them. But both of them employ a cold connection or a tab on their clasp. And you can see that if I depress this tab, it opens up so that I can put the bracelet on, and then I can just put it back, and the bracelet's secure so it won't fall off. Now, like I said, I used two different approaches to these. This one, I ran the material through a rolling mill with a piece of paper that was cut out with all of the little faces on it. And you can see this piece of paper is thoroughly distressed from the experience of going through the rolling mill. And we have a video on that if you want to know how to do that process. Now the other one over here, all I did was I just put a very simple hammer finish to the metal. And as you can see, the tab passes through a larger hole that was given a crescent moon shape or a smile shape, and two little eyes were pierced out as well, making it an emoji cuff. Now, the most important thing about this project is that you're going to have to be conscious of the size of the piece, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let me take you through the materials that you're going to need in order to work on this piece. First of all, you're going to need some strips of paper, and these are just going to be models that you're going to work with so that you can work on your client or yourself and figure out how big of a piece that you want to make. You're going to need strips of copper, and you could use either 20 or 22 gauge thickness of metal, and the length will vary depending upon the client. You're also going to need a striking surface, so I have a bench block here. I have a permanent marking pen, a Ball-Peen Hammer, a jeweler's saw frame with a saw blade in it, a pair of rosary or round nose pliers, a ruler, an awl, or you can substitute with a center punch. I have a file, and I also have our famous bat mandrel, and there's a video on how to make this tool and another video on how to use this tool. I also have my flex shaft ready, and with the flex shaft I'm going to need my chuck key in order to secure a drill bit, and I have a work surface to drill into. You never want to drill into the top of your bench or your bench pin if you can help it. I do have my handy bench vise, and I also have over here a tape measure. Now, this is something that might be in, say, a family sewing kit, or you may have to run out and buy one, but this is a great way to measure your client's wrist to find out how big of a piece of metal you're really going to need in order to fit them. Now, remember, just like when you make a ring or any other piece of jewelry that involves a curve, you're going to lose a little bit of the length from bending it. And in this case, we're going to have a little bit of an overlap where that tang fits through. And depending on how far you overlap it, you're going to lose that distance as well. Okay, let me get started and I'll show you what to do. So let me put these away. Now, before I begin, remember, safety first. Whenever you're working with a striking surface and a hammer, it's always good to wear eye protection because you never know, something could chip off or shatter and get in your eye. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece of copper, which has been pre-annealed. Now, if you're comfortable handling a torch, you can anneal the metal yourself, and we have a video on how to anneal metal. But if you're not comfortable with the torch, you can buy what's called dead soft metal. It means it comes pre-annealed. All you have to do is just work with it and you're good to go. Now, I could take any approach. I could do the roll printing, I could do stamping, but in this case, I'm just going to use the ball end of a ball-peen hammer, and I'm just going to give it a light texture. Okay, so here we go. I measured my client's wrist. It's about 6 inches, so this 7-inch length should be enough metal to make the bracelet. Okay, I'm done applying my texture, and you can see I've covered every little bit of my piece. Now, if you choose to do a hammer texture, remember, try to not hit right on the edge. If you do, it's okay. You can correct it, and you can see how it sort of deforms the piece a little bit. That's easy to fix. We can just take a rawhide or wooden mallet like this one, and if you put it on the opposite direction of your hitting surface, in other words, so that the high side is up, just hit the high side down. Good enough. Okay, so what you want to do next is you want to refine these edges to make sure that they look professional. And the best way that I know to do that is if you do have a bench vise, just drop the piece into the bench vise and then take your file, and what you want to do is just slide your file over the edge of the piece like so. Now, if there are any high points, they'll show up with the first stroke. So you're just going to do this, and when you get to a moment where you've got it completely even, you may want to take a sanding stick or a little bit of sandpaper just to smooth it out. Okay, so let me take care of this one. Okay, I've gone all the way around on each edge, and I've used the file to bring them back to a really straight surface. Now, there may be a little bit of a burr on the edge, or it may be actually kind of sharp. So what I would suggest doing before you move on is, why don't you refine the edges a little bit? And you can do that with just a simple piece of sandpaper wrapped around a piece of wood. Just give yourself a little bit of light sanding. Okay, perfect. That sanding is important because you really don't want the edges to cut into somebody or snag on some clothing, and having them nice and smooth like that, you're good to go. Okay, so let's move on. Now, I took a measurement of my client's wrist and I made this template. And if I lay this on top of my piece, it fits perfectly. I've got just enough room for the tang and for the opening. Now what I want to do is I want to make a marking onto the surface of the copper with the permanent marker so that I know where to remove the excess metal. So I'll start down at this end and I'll give myself the rectangular shape that I need to cut out for the clasp. And now I'll come up to the top and I will mark the areas that need to be removed in order to create the tang. Just like that. So now what I need to do is I need to make a kernel using either a center punch or an awl, and then use my flex shaft to drill a hole so that I can pierce out this hole. Okay, so let's do that. Now remember, whenever you do make a kernel, support your work on a striking surface, hold it down, figure out a good place where you want to drill that hole, and just give it a wrap. Then you can take it over and drill out the hole. All right, so let's put the drill bit into the flex shaft, making sure that the drill bit is centered in the flex shaft. And I do want to position this onto the drilling surface. Perfect. Now I just need to saw it out. Okay. I drilled the hole so that I could slide the saw blade through it in order to pierce out the area that will receive the tang. I've successfully cut the hole that will receive the tang. Now, I can perfect this by using either needle files, or I can refine it with the saw. And if you make it a little wider to receive the tang, you may be better off, because then that way it'll move easier through the slot. Now what I need to do is saw off the ends that will create the tang. Okay, I've cut the material to create the tang, and the hole is open. So at this point, you may want to refine the area around the tang and also the area at the end of the bracelet. Now you may want to break these corners so that they aren't sharp for the person who's going to be wearing it. So I'm going to put it back into my bench vise and just give it a little bit more filing. All right, so now you can see that I've sanded and refined all of my edges, and I have a nice little hole or clasp to receive my tang. The next thing that I need to do is to bend the bracelet on my bat mandrel that I'm going to insert into the bench vise. Now there's a video on how to make the bat mandrel, and there's another video on how to properly shape on the bat mandrel as well. Okay, so I've got it on here now, and I'll just take a big wooden hammer, and I'm going to come to this top curvature, which is the tightest curvature, just to initiate the bend. Now remember, give the metal some place to go. Don't just put it right against the wood. Okay, I'm forming this on the bat mandrel, but if you really want to see how to do it correctly, there's another video on working with the bat mandrel. Okay, so what I've got right now is a bracelet that's pretty much almost perfectly shaped. What I want to do now is I want to bring a curve to the tang so that it will fit into the little hole or clasp that's going to receive it. And all you need to do is just use your round nose pliers and just give it a bend up. And this may take a little bit of adjustment, so take your time. The easiest way to finish this piece is by tumbling it. There we have it. It's clasped and ready to wear. I hope you have fun making this project. Check out our other videos on the onlinejewelryacademy.com, and don't forget, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And don't forget to hit the little button in the corner and subscribe. Thanks for watching.